Okay, good afternoon once more. All right, we are proceeding with what we started the previous week. We're looking at the principles for education development. We highlighted how important these principles are towards the development of our education system in Zambia. We indicated that these principles, they guide in terms of policy formulation and decision making with regard to all the affairs of education within this particular country. We also indicated that there are 7 principles for education development. You can make reference to the previous lesson that we had. Among those 7 principles, we looked at decentralization, liberalization, as well as quality, and their influence or their effects or their impact in terms of education development. At the same time, we did indicate that as educational practitioners, we need to understand how each of these principles tend to influence our education system, meaning that it influences the quality of education, they influence education provision, they influence decision making, they influence multiple areas of education. In today's lesson, our interest is to look at the other 4 remaining principles, and that is 1, we have equality, then equity, partnership, as well as accountability. Okay, then just like the previous ones, we'll try to see how does each of these principles tend to, is it influence or tend to impact on the development of the education system in this country. Okay, at the same time, in which we try to see ways in which you as a teacher can be able to use these principles as in the line of your operations, probably as education or is it administrators. Fine. Okay, so we are looking at the 4th principle, which is called the principle of equality. I should believe equality is not a new concept to any one of us. And I would ask to get your views in terms of ways in which equality can be implemented in the education system and the impact it provides on our education system. In simple terms, in which way can you ensure that equality is implemented at your level as a teacher, at your level as maybe education administrator? Feel free to make comments on that. Everyone with the view in which equality can be used in the education system or is actually used in our education system. Principle of equality. Okay, is it Mr. Musonda? Yes, Mr. Mwe. Okay. Speak loudly, sir.
Yes, quality, we are looking at the teachers themselves, how they are trained, meaning that they have to undergo a good training so that they become specialized to offer quality education.
Okay.
We also look at things like the curriculum, meaning that you have to have a proper curriculum which will help actually to ensure that you produce quality learners.
Okay, the principle we're looking at is equality, isn't it? So the question is, in which way do you think this principle of education influences our education provision? Okay, Mr. Sidney.
Okay, this principle entails that education should be provided to all, that is male or female, without considering the social, cultural circumstances. In short, it's talking about sameness in terms of resources. Both male and female should be accorded a chance to access resources,
Okay,
learning institutions.
great. Great. Madam, so your hand up.
Yes, we are able to look at the equality basing our answer on liberalization.
Okay.
As a nation, education has been liberalized. That means that people have been given the mandate to have even private schools. So in terms of equality, it should be in terms of provision of education, regardless of whether private or public, but providing a quality education equally to all the institutions and giving them or granting them the same curriculum that should be able to cover both private and the public.
Thank you so much for your input, Madam. I can see there's some more hands. Yes, boss, what is your take?
My point is equality is applied in the education sector at the point of admission. As they are admitting new students, there should be no form of discrimination or segregation depending on their race, religion, gender, as well as financial considerations.
Okay, great. That's a good contribution. So the madam hand had a similar point, madam. Okay, great. That's right. Okay, so we're talking about equality. Equality is about fairness, isn't it? So the concept of equality is about equal distribution of resources or equal distribution of anything which is at hand. In this case, we're talking about equal distribution of education, providing education to everyone without segregation. Equality is in line with the contents of Article 26 of the United Nations Declaration, which says that everyone has what? Right to education, isn't it? So in this case, you as the teacher, you have the when you are in class, you have that obligation to ensure that you provide education equally to everyone without segregation. You're not looking at their tribe, their faces, their height, their religious affiliation. It's about treating all learners the same, isn't it? Without favoritism. Equal at the same level when you are an education administrator. You may find yourselves you're managing learning institutions at the level of admissions. Equality should be able to take its role, isn't it? Meaning you're giving chances to everyone to access the educational services which your institution is providing. So it is in those line of thoughts where we can be able to consider this particular principle. The question is, do we see equality being implemented in our institutions or in the systems of education that we have witnessed? What can be your take? Is there objective equality being administered, or there's some levels of segregation What is your take? Have we been fairly treated in our journey as students? Or do we feel we have been victimized along the way? What is your take? Yes, sir.
To some extent, you can say that the equality is somehow compromised at the point of admission.
Okay.
What I mean to say is, when it comes to admission, you'll find that the girl child is given maybe a lower bus fare
Okay.
compared to the boy child. So that is a form of imbalance.
Okay, great. Thanks for that observation. Yes, yes.
Yeah, in terms of fairness, I think somehow, yes, on the greater extent, there is that equality being practiced. But again, we see in most schools, in the rural areas, you find it is a boarding school. The majority in that particular school are coming from urban areas,
Okay.
meaning that they're disadvantaging the local individuals. So somehow we see that imbalance.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. So those are some of the observations with regard to our members here in terms of how equality is being implemented. Remember, we said the obligation or the objectives in this class is for us to understand these principles and how they are applied and how they are impacting on our education system. And is it making an analysis to see ways in which we can be able to implement them as we are teachers or as we are education administrators. Okay. Thank you so much. Unless there are questions on equality, or we move on to equity. Okay, so our second principle is equity. And now many times when we feel there is a thin line between equity and equality, some people actually would think it is the same concept. So before we can even maybe go further to look at equity, who can help us to give a very brief difference, if at all it is there, or just the meaning of equity as differentiated from equality? Anyone with, we know what, we've already seen what equality is, so we want to see the concept of equity. Yes, madam?
The difference between equality and equity, under equality, we are providing educational resources equally, whereas in equity, we are providing resources according to need.
Okay, great. Great, thank you. Yes, yes, sir.
All right, thank you. So I think probably the simplest difference that you can talk about when it comes to equality and equity, I think equality has to do with equalness, right? And then equity, in short, has to do with fairness. Yeah, I think that's the simplest. You asked for the simplest definition. So that's my
Okay, great. Do you have any other? Okay. So, from the contribution which we've gotten from the madam, she has emphasized that equality has to do with is it equal distribution of resources or giving opportunities to everyone without segregation. That is what we are having coming out prominently in equality. Now, what is coming out prominently in equity? It's about providing education according to the level of need. Okay. Providing education according to the level of need, which our learners have. Okay, so what does that entail on your part as teachers? It means that you have the responsibility to, first of all, assess your learners. Okay. Assess your learners in terms of the level of need. Your learners may have different levels of needs, isn't it? What are some of these levels of, what are these differences in terms of levels of needs? Other learners may be, let's say, not catching up as opposed to others, isn't it? Reason being that they may be, it is an inborn ability which they have, okay? And you have to recognize that by paying attention to their level of need, isn't it? Other learners may be having challenges because of what the social economic situations which they have, which is impacting on their ability to concentrate in class, isn't it? You have to recognize that. We'll give an example for, let's say, the category of our students that we have at this institution. Okay, you may find that in the same class, okay, some learners are coming from well-to-do families, isn't it? Issues of assignments and all that are not difficult for them to process. While other learners in the same class, despite being intelligent, but they do not have even as simple as 10 quarters to print what? The assignment. You are the teacher, you have given them deadlines, isn't it? Here's the learner that will come and explain to you, sir, I did not have. Okay. The reason I've done the assignment, but I've failed to print because my parents have not sent me money. Okay, I don't have. Are you going to punish them? Are you going to? That is a particular need which that particular student has. Other students may not be able to understand at the same pace like others in class. They may require what? Extra or supplementary kind of what? Lessons for them to catch up. It's what? The level of need which they have. So what we need to have in mind as teachers is the fact that equity enables us or reminds us to pay attention to these diverse needs which our learners have, so that we become capable or we provide our services which will correspond or which will respond to the level of need which each particular learner has. Okay. In short, we're saying that equity provides support. In equity, teachers provide support to the learners. And that support is meant for learners to have the same advantage as other normal learners. Okay. We said equity and equality are not the same things. In equity, you're recognizing the level of need which learners have. And then you provide support according to those needs. In equality, you are treating all learners what? Equally without segregation. How do we apply, how do we implement that practically in the learning environment like ours? Okay. I was giving you an example. Very soon, learners will be going towards exams, which is December, isn't it? Coming to the end of the year. Okay. When it comes to exams, we apply what? We apply equality when it comes to marking and allocating of marks, isn't it? All learners are treated what? Equally. We are not going to mark on the basis that, no, this child is coming from a poor background and hence they have to be graded because of coming from a poor background, isn't it? Your level, the level at which you are going to provide support is during what? The period you are with these learners. When it comes to, is it allocation of marks? You're applying what? Equality, isn't it? Fairness. When it comes to learning, apply what? Equity. so that those learners with specific needs, you identify them early and you try to provide support to them so that they are not disadvantaged when it comes to the final assessments which should be given or evaluation which should be given to the learners. I don't know if we have made ourselves clear on that. Do you have questions? Do you have any clarifications on the two? Okay, seems clear. Okay, we proceed. We go to the next principle, which is the principle of partnership. The principle of partnership. Okay, we know that, Madam, you want to come in? How does partnership work in education? Partnership, sir, are you ready? Okay. Based on the principle of liberalization, remember what she said, liberalization, the government gives that opportunity to individuals like you and me to set up or to contribute to education. That principle in itself becomes the backbone of what? Partnership. The government realizes they cannot be able to provide education alone to the citizens, isn't it? Hence, they invite private players, non-governmental organizations, religious bodies, individuals to partner with government in providing education at all levels. This partnership involves collaborating in terms of resource mobilization for education. It involves capacity building in terms of the human resource needed to work in these training institutions. Partnership can go further to infrastructure development, isn't it? We've seen the amount of investment which the private players have pumped in, either in government or institutions, or even in private institutions, isn't it? To come up with classroom space, to put desks, to put, modern infrastructures, to provide teaching and learning materials. All that is as a result of what? Partnership. Now, this partnership should also be understood at, maybe we can put 4 levels. Okay. You have partnership at the international level, okay, in which the Zambian government will be required to partner with, other countries, or is it multinational agencies? Like, is it the World Bank, the European Union? Is it the Chinese government, the British government, the US government? We've seen some of the involvements which they've had over the years in our education system. That is as a result of what? Partnership at the international level, is it? We can also talk about partnership at the regional level. The Zambian government, or is it the Southern African region, partnering with maybe East African region, or is it the Asian community, to engage in what? Some collaborations with regard to how they can be able to improve education. That is at the international level that we're talking about. But that partnership can also be brought down to the local level, the national level. Okay, at the national level, then, at the local level, you're talking about individual institutions partnering. Within this nation, we have, so, yes, madam. Then you bring it to what? To local level. Is it national level, rather? National level. Okay. National level, we are implying that within our nation, we have various institutions, isn't it? We'll give practical examples of that. Are you coming? Yes, you want the key? Come on. Okay, at the national level, we are talking about individual institutions, individual schools, partnering with other schools or other institutions for the purpose of ensuring that our education system is properly developed. To give an example, TVTC partnering with University of Zambia, partnering with Copperbelt University, partnering with other players in the education system for the purpose of what? Improving the quality of education, for the purpose of providing education. Equally, your institutions can be able to do that, isn't it? I believe even within your institutions, when it comes to training, you may require to identify which stakeholders you can be able to bring on board for the purpose of ensuring that your training provision is probably improved. So that is this particular concept. Further partnership can be reduced to the department level, at the institutional level, right? Okay. Departments need to work together. Okay. You can't do it to develop in isolation of the department. You need to see what other departments are doing for the purpose of harmony, isn't it? At the classroom level, you're a teacher, isn't it? You can't be the master of everything. You need to see what your colleagues in the department are doing, isn't it? When we take this partnership to secondary level or primary level, this is where now teachers now engage you as parents, isn't it? You hear, the other day I received the CPD, they call them a CPD, okay? Call your parents, isn't it? When you receive that, it means that the teacher wants to what? To partner with you for the purpose of what? The benefit of the education for your child, isn't it? Are we on the same page? So partnership has all those levels that can be used for the purpose of improving education. Okay. Unless you have questions. Yes. Okay, speak loudly. We want to get your concept. Yes.
So all those conferences at Addis Ababa, because of that same principle of partnership.
Okay, problem. Yes. One of the prominent concepts or principles which came out from which has been pronounced from the international conferences is the aspect of partnership, isn't it? The regional, or is it the international community, realized that it's not possible to develop in isolation. Okay, you need to work in collaboration with other countries for the benefits of your learners and for the benefit of development of education within your country. Okay, questions? Any other? Okay, we proceed. Accountability. Accountability. First of all, we need to understand that the principle of accountability helps us to appreciate the responsibility which is given to individuals managing the education system. Okay. Accountability entails responsibility. Everything happening in the education system, there should be individuals who are accountable or who are responsible either for the success or the failures, isn't it? At your level as a teacher, you are what? You are accountable for the success or the failure of what? Your learners. If you are the head of the institution, the success or the failure of that institution is dependent on what? The decisions that you're making together with your team, isn't it? At the level of the nation, again, there are people who have that particular responsibility. The district level, the provincial level. So the government has put up all those accountability measures where specific individuals have been appointed to be responsible to ensure that what is intended or what is prescribed is actually what is going on, isn't it? Failure to which our education system cannot be able to be a success. So accountability measures looks at responsibility, okay, levels of responsibility. Who is responsible for this activity which is supposed to be done? Okay, when that is identified, then you can be able to measure, is this going to lead, is this a success or is it a failure? Okay, like I said, at all levels of education, there are accountable offices, isn't it? At the national level, at the provincial level, at the district level, at the institutional level. It goes further to the departmental level. Then it comes down to what? To the section level and the classroom level, isn't it? So we need to know which office do we occupy in that hierarchy of accountability, isn't it? So that we are able to carry out the mandate which has been given to us. Okay. Any failure to show this accountability or responsibility will lead to, is it compromising our education system? That is in one aspect. The other key aspect where we can talk about accountability in education is about financial resources, isn't it? Money meant to be used for education should be used for the intended purpose, isn't it? We've seen so many cases of people, office bearers, being cited for having misappropriated resources meant for what? For education. Those resources could be meant for procurement of desks, is it infrastructure development, paying of workers, buying of teaching and learning materials, which in some cases ends up in what? People's pockets, which at the end of it compromises on the quality of education provision. Okay, so as people are familiarized with these principles, we are required to ensure that in our line of work, accountability measures are being followed, isn't it? I think that is quite straight, unless there are questions on that. Mafonso or questions? Amepusho. Is everything clear? Okay, great. So, in a nutshell, in summary, we have covered the 7 principles of education development. Each of these principles impacts on the way our education system either succeeds or fails to succeed. Each principle is quite important. Excuse me. We can be able to implement these principles at all levels of education. We've cited, regardless whether we are serving at national level, we are serving at district level, provincial level, or institutional level, even at the classroom level, each of these principles are quite what? Relevant. There's a way or means by which each and every principle will be able to apply to our line of work. Like I said, the formulation of these principles have been done with the view to guide how our education system in Zambia is going to develop. Okay. That is between the time they were formulated, even going forward. These principles have been they have been identified to guide the future policy development programs. Okay. And you'll be able to notice that from the time they were formulated, early 1990s, up to now, all the education policies or decision making with regard to major key issues in education have been done without contradicting, okay, this principle. Are we on the same page? So equally, even ourselves at the level of teachers, at the level of institution administrators, we need to buy into these concepts, to these principles, so that in our line of operations, we are not contradicting ourselves with regard to how we are making decisions or implementing the decisions within our operations. Unless there are questions. Okay. Thank you so much for that.